Kinder Surprise. Kinder Surprise has been banned in the United States since 1938 under a law prohibiting non-nutritive objects embedded in confectionery. The FDA has seized millions of Kinder eggs at the border. Customs agents specifically look for them. American travelers returning from Europe have had them confiscated at customs. The fine for importing them is up to $2,500 per egg. Ferrero has tried multiple times to enter the American market with modified versions. The Kinder Joy, sold legally in America since 2017, separates the chocolate and toy into two compartments to comply with the law. A children's chocolate egg that is legal in over 100 countries remains contraband in the United States because a 1938 law has never been updated. Skittles. Skittles sold in the United States contain titanium dioxide, a whitening agent that makes the candy shells appear more vivid and opaque. The European Union banned titanium dioxide as a food additive entirely in 2022, following a food safety assessment that could not rule out genotoxicity concerns. Mars, the manufacturer, reformulated Skittles sold in European markets to remove it while continuing to sell the original formulation in the United States. A California lawsuit in 2023 specifically targeted Mars for selling a version of Skittles in America that contained an ingredient the company had already proven it could remove for European consumers. Reese's. Reese's peanut butter cups have been subject to multiple FDA recalls over the years related to undeclared allergens and salmonella contamination at peanut processing facilities. The 2008 to 2009 salmonella outbreak traced to a Peanut Corporation of America facility affected products across hundreds of brands, including peanut butter-based items. 9 people died and approximately 714 were sickened. The facility's owner was sentenced to 28 years in federal prison, one of the longest sentences ever handed down for food safety crimes. A peanut butter cup beloved by American children was implicated in a contamination scandal that resulted in one of the most significant criminal food safety prosecutions in American history. Starburst. Starburst, sold in the United States, contains red 40 and yellow 5, synthetic dyes that require mandatory warning labels in the European Union, stating the coloring may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. Mars reformulates Starburst for European markets using natural colorants to avoid the warning requirement. American Starburst has never required reformulation or warning labels despite the international regulatory consensus moving towards stricter limits on these dyes. Parents who buy Starburst in America and Starburst in the UK are buying products with different ingredient lists that produce visually identical candy. The wrapper looks the same. The contents do not match. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola's original 1886 formula contained cocaine from coca leaf extract. The cocaine was removed in 1903 following growing public concern about cocaine addiction. The company switched to decoconized coca leaf extract, which is still used today. Coca-Cola is the only company legally permitted to import coca leaves into the United States. A New Jersey chemical company called Step-In processes the leaves, extracts the cocaine alkaloids for pharmaceutical use, and supplies the remaining flavoring to Coca-Cola. The most consumed beverage on Earth still contains coca leaf extract with the cocaine chemically removed. The process requires a DEA licensed facility and produces pharmaceutical cocaine as a byproduct of making soda flavor. Rice. Rice contains naturally occurring arsenic absorbed from soil and water during growing. Brown rice contains more arsenic than white rice because arsenic concentrates in the outer bran layer that is removed during white rice processing. The FDA has issued guidance specifically about infant rice cereal because infants consuming rice products regularly receive proportionally higher arsenic exposure relative to their body weight. California requires Proposition 65 warnings on some rice products due to arsenic levels. A grain that feeds more than half the world's population contains a carcinogen that regulatory agencies have been unable to set a single agreed safe limit for because rice is too important to restrict significantly. Nutella. Nutella contains palm oil as its primary fat ingredient. The European Food Safety Authority determined in 2016 that palm oil processed at high temperatures produces contaminants called glycidyl fatty acid esters that are potentially carcinogenic. Italy's largest supermarket chain briefly removed Nutella from shelves following the report, before reversing the decision after significant consumer backlash. Ferrero defended its palm oil processing temperatures and stated its product was safe. Palm oil cultivation has also destroyed significant areas of rainforest in Indonesia and Malaysia. A chocolate hazelnut spread sold to children across the world contains an ingredient linked to both potential carcinogenic compounds and one of the largest environmental destruction stories in modern agriculture. Apples. Apples sold in American supermarkets are coated in food-grade wax to replace the natural wax removed during washing and to extend shelf life and improve appearance. The wax is approved by the FDA and considered safe. The less discussed fact is that American apples can be stored for up to 12 months in controlled atmosphere storage facilities before reaching supermarket shelves. The apple purchased in March was likely harvested the previous autumn. Controlled atmosphere storage reduces oxygen levels to near zero and lowers temperature to just above freezing, essentially pausing the apple's biology. A fresh apple in an American supermarket may be almost a year old. The wax keeps it looking like it was picked last week. Kellogg's cereal. John Harvey Kellogg invented cornflakes in 1894 at his Battle Creek Sanitarium as a deliberately bland food he believed would reduce what he considered unhealthy impulses in his patients. His brother Will added sugar against John's wishes and commercialized it. The sugar addition made it successful. Modern Kellogg cereals marketed to children contain sugar levels that nutritionists consistently identify as problematic. Fruit Loops is 44% sugar by weight. The UK has implemented advertising restrictions on high-sugar cereals targeting children. Kellogg's reformulated several products for UK markets to meet advertising standards, while maintaining the original higher-sugar formulas for American markets. A cereal invented to suppress urges became a sugar delivery vehicle that different countries regulate differently. Canned tuna. Canned tuna contains mercury because tuna are apex predators that accumulate methylmercury from every fish they eat throughout their lives, a process called biomagnification. The FDA advises pregnant women to limit albacore tuna to 1 serving per week and light tuna to 2 servings per week due to mercury's documented effects on fetal neurological development. Children are also advised to limit consumption. Mercury at elevated levels causes irreversible neurological damage. The fish that Americans eat most frequently as a cheap protein source is the same fish that the FDA specifically warns pregnant women and children to limit. The advice appears in FDA guidelines. It does not appear on the can. M&M'S. M&M'S in the United States use red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6 synthetic dyes that require mandatory warning labels in the European Union. Mars reformulates M&M'S sold in the UK and EU using natural colorants extracted from sources like carmine, spirulina, and turmeric to avoid the warning requirement and consumer hesitancy around synthetic dyes. The American version has never required reformulation because no equivalent labeling law exists. The candy looks identical on the shelf in both countries. The ingredient panel tells a completely different story depending on which government regulated the product before it reached the shelf. McDonald's French fries. McDonald's fries in America contain a chemical preservative called TBHQ, along with dimethyl polysiloxane, an anti-foaming agent also used in silly putty. The European Union restricts the levels of several additives used in American fast food oil processing. McDonald's fries sold in the UK and Germany use a different formulation than the ones sold in the United States, with fewer preservatives and a shorter shelf stability window. The same golden fries, the same red box, a completely different ingredient list, depending on which side of the Atlantic you are standing on. Americans have been eating the more heavily preserved version for decades without noticing the difference existed. Pringles. Certain Pringles flavors sold in the United States contain food dyes and preservative combinations that require warning labels under European Union regulations. Pringles manufactured for European distribution use reformulated recipes with natural colorants to avoid mandatory labeling requirements that would otherwise be required for the American formulation. The potato chip itself, made from the same dehydrated potato process globally, is identical. The flavor coating and preservative system applied afterward differs by region according to each market's regulatory requirements. A chip that starts as the same base product becomes a chemically different snack by the time it reaches the shelf in each country.